מתחילים, ההרצאה תהיה בשפה האנגלית, מקווה שזה לא תהיה בעיה. Okay, so this is a lecture about Fiverr journey in the last 2-3 years. Delivering fast, then faster, no retreat, no surrender, no QA. Delivering fast means because we're a startup, and even, I mean, we always deliver fast because it's like you start small, you deliver very, very fast. But the question is, can you keep on growing and deliver fast and even move faster? So this is the story of it. So a few words about Fiverr. Fiverr is a startup from 2010, funded by $110 million, 250 size, 70 dev team is 70. It's a marketplace. It's a marketplace of creative services, the largest marketplace in this. These are the services: graphic design, marketing, video, audio, editing, anything that you think that you can deliver through the internet for every freelancer there is, and for every freelancer there is, and for every business that needs it to support its needs. Yeah, this is okay. To support its needs, whether it be through marketing stuff or its website or building website or anything. It's a global company, lots of categories, and 25 million orders till now delivered through this marketplace. It's like delivering service as a product, like you buy an Amazon product. This is how you buy service in Fiverr. Okay. Okay. So how do we work currently? We have a structure of task forces. We have a structure of task forces with every task force is a mixture of back-end, front-end, dev, business analyst, designer, product manager, a combination of. It could be more of this and less of that. It's not a fixed combination. It's not a fixed combination. Every task force, based on the ownership and what it needs to deliver, this is it could be 2 front-end, 1 back-end, 3 back-end, 1 front-end, half a designer, whatever, okay? We have 20 of those, and we deliver daily to production. Every developer can deliver daily to production, whatever he feels he wants to. I mean, no restriction on that. Millions lines of code, and all this doing micro tasks like 1 hour coding or 2 months big projects with dozens of 10 task forces working simultaneously on a shared goal, and all this increasing the team size by 450%, and all this with no QA. So how did we do it? Okay. First, I'd like to show you the why, because you really need to believe in it in order to make it happen. So, for me, software development is a knowledge game, yeah. And QA in the critical path, QA in the critical path of development, as like the traditional QA, is a drag. It's a drag because you need to deliver knowledge to another layer, another chain in the loop, another guy that needs to understand what and how. So it's a friction. It's an unnecessary friction. It's also a drag because there's always not enough QA. Always, the bigger the system gets, the more QA you need. The more QA you need because the more knowledge you need, and the less knowledge they have. The less knowledge the QA have, because knowledge comes from business, from the team, from PM. Knowledge needs to be executed by dev, and QA needs to be there in order to understand what is it, so they need to test it. So they need more and more of them. And it's a barrier to growth. For me, if I look at the programmer and I tell him, okay, you're not responsible on the end game, you're not responsible on the end delivery, I really shut him and put like a glass ceiling to his development. And mind, just by an example if have you ever seen any startup, any founder building a team of 2 or 3, whatever, and starting, yeah, I need a QA. No, sometimes you don't even need a product manager, okay? But you just start and build it and you grow from it. The question is, do you still need it as you grow? And my answer is not necessarily, okay? So this is the why, and this is the for what. So what do we gain if we don't have QA in the critical path? So we have a faster delivery, right? Less friction, fewer men in the loop, faster delivery. You get also efficiency. Team is smaller. You can do stuff. You can do the quality testing based on what you really need and what some other guy need. I mean, the programmer can decide what really is testing, and not like thinking about just making sure things don't break, but really test what is needed. And you can be very effective, because if the programmer really understands the business, oh, we're going to start now. So, and it's much more effective because the programmer really understands what it needs to do. He has to, because sometimes when the QA in the team, then you say, okay, QA is representing the user, and he will know to like cover up for any gaps that the programmer has in understanding the users. No. Now the programmer needs to understand the user, and is therefore the working as a team and getting to a much more effective product is easier. And the next one is that it's about quality. So I believe that fewer men in the loop, which really own quality, is better than having one that really has a, like, he is the quality owner, the others really just do their job and he makes sure it's really quality job. No, it's better quality if you own it. And the question, does it fit all? Like as a base question. So let's leave it to the end of the presentation. Okay. Okay. So first steps, when coming to a very small team, 10, 15 people, and delivering very fast, but with reverts and bugs and issues. The first thing is learning to walk, which is starting from the basic. And the basic is doing small stuff. So if you have what I had at the beginning, 10, 15 people, and 2 QAs for this team, learning to work without context switch, which is hard in a startup. But if you focus on that and learn how to do it well, and really context switch only when you really have to, and this is needs to be very rare stuff. So just working on small stuff, finishing up, making sure you do what you want to do, and delivering it to the end. This is a very essential. It's really about learning how to forget. Because small chunks, working in small chunks, let go. You developed it, it's there, it's in production. You don't need to think about big stuff. You don't need to think about complex interrelation because you tested it. It's there, it's running, it's in production. Now go ahead to the next step. Learn to forget, okay? So this is the first basic step. The next step is to tell the QA that you're not a gatekeeper. But it's not telling the QA, it's telling the developer, telling the team. Telling the team that, okay, you have a QA in the team, a QA that is responsible for 2 teams, but never use him as a gatekeeper. Meaning, don't have any excuse, don't use any excuse that you can't deliver because QA resource is unavailable because it's testing something else. If you want to deliver, just deliver it. How? Talk to the QA, get advice. QA is an enabler to the team. It's not a gatekeeper. Think about priority. Think about what you really want someone to test for you. Take ownership. Do you really want someone to test this code that you wrote, that you just wrote? Is it? Is it that complex? Grow. Grow up in responsibility. And this is the biggest step. This is the biggest step for a team to make sure that, or to get into it, to get into the point that QA is not in the critical path, that QA should not delay anything. It's the responsibility of the team to deliver quality stuff. Think together. And if you need more time for this, if you need more time in order to get it done, to deliver it, take it. I trust you. I trust you to get it done. Okay? And it's not like that if you need to do it and you need more time, take whatever time you need, because you're still a startup. You need to balance between risk, balance between what you need to test, but balance with what you've coded, with everything. Okay. And the next step, once the team gets the sense of it, or it's not like a linear step, but when you grow the team, do not add more QAs. So this is getting rid of the addiction to QA. So you get more team, you add more developer, you add more task forces that we have, but QA stays the same. So for us, it was growing from 15 to 70 developers, having QA, keeping QA at 2, at a level of 2 QAs, and in the process, also having QA run some automation, write automations. So even reducing it to practically 1 QA. So the more you develop, the more you gain ownership. And it's a very, I must share that when a new developer comes to a company and he needs to say to himself, yeah, I want it. In Fiverr, when you onboard, most of the time you don't know the language because it's Ruby on Rails and you don't know it. So after a week and a half, you do an online training, and after a week later, you already deployed to production with no QA. And it's kind of a shock for every developer that's coming in. You have to take responsibility. And there's always difficulties in this because QAs and some others ask for bug management tools. They ask for, why won't we use Jira, okay, for whatever? Why? Because we need to track the bugs, we need to manage them, where did you find them? And I'm telling them, no, we don't need bug management, we need to solve the bugs, that's it. Solve the bugs if they're important, if no, forget them. Learn to forget because the system changes so fast. The world changes, the system changes, the code is not there. Like a week from now, it's not going to be the same system. So if it's a critical bug, if it's an important one, fix it, prioritize it, put it in the backlog. If it's not, I don't want like a list of histogram charts of any bugs by priorities and stuff. Just fix it. And it's a change of mind, and this is what brings the quality to the game of the task force. Okay. So now we'd say, hey, so what about automation? And there's lots of questions about automation, right? Unit testing, integration, can you do it? Can you do it without integration? Can you do it without, what kind of environments do you have to test? I mean, is it that easy? To test full UX, just download. To test, some programmers say, yeah, unit test is not that important. It's just testing the test. It doesn't test the system. It's useful. It's useless for me. Is developing unit test something that is in the critical path? They say for every story, for every feature you develop, run unit test. And if not, don't deploy it. Is it a condition? Do you test cross browsers? Lots of questions here. But before I answer the question, if I answer the questions, these are the guiding principles that guide me when dealing with these questions. So first is that the people need to understand the company vision and mission. They need to live it. They need to understand what do. They need to care about the sellers, care about the marketplace, care about the buyers. They need to understand what are they doing. It's not the code, right? And they need to understand the dev mission. Dev mission is quality, impact, fast towards the company mission. Quality is there, impact is there, fast is there. You can't just hold one of them. And nothing is perfect. I mean, definitely in a startup which is so vibrant and everything changes, nothing is perfect and everything is imperfect, continuously. Every snapshot of time when you look at how things behave or how things operate, everything is imperfect. And you need to not just live with the uncertainty or deal with uncertainty, you need to grow with this uncertainty of the marketplace, of the system, of the code that changed. Many teams that are doing stuff. And you don't know everything. So you need to be part of it. Minimal policy setting. And I like this from HubSpot, from the culture of HubSpot, which says, we don't penalize the many for the mistakes of the few. I mean, it's very easy. Okay, we had an issue, so let's make a policy. So from now on, everyone, before he deploys, he needs to talk with this and that guy. That's a policy from now on. I hate it. I hate it because it brings it like to a sinking in mud of you can't able to move, okay? And why do I hate it? Because I want to trust the team. You need to trust the team. You need to deliver autonomy to the team. Autonomy of the team is what brings them the ownership on what they do. And the ownership is then the accountability for the results, whether it be in production, whether it be in quality, whether it be in the product, whatever. So this is the game. You need to trust, you need to get ownership. Trusting and autonomy is the key to ownership and accountability. And fear is no option, always. If you're a fearful person that cannot like deal with the uncertainty or understand that you need to do stuff, you need to get out of your chair, you need to decide to make decisions, this is no option. We're moving fast and always faster. You always use your judgment. It's not others to decide. It's yours. Small team, use your judgment, discuss, talk. You need someone else to talk with, go to. You need an advice, you need something. Always retrospect, always do retrospect. We talked about psychological safety, Joshua mentioned. If you retrospect continuously, you have the ground for psychological safety. So continuous learning, continuous goal setting, setting up the goal, getting the ownership. So these are the guidelines, okay? And when I go back when I go back to the question that we had, unit test versus integration. So I was in the mood of telling them, yeah, let's do unit testing. Let's focus on that. Let's put your effort. And it didn't work well. It didn't work well because the pain was not big enough. The pain for them was not big enough. So I let go. So some teams thought it's big enough for them to do unit testing, so they did. Some did not. For some it took some time to develop it, and it's okay. Because once you want the autonomy, once you want to trust them, you need to give them the tools also to make decisions. And this is one of the decisions. And this is the curve of the unit testing, just one curve of one component during like months of it's like understanding, getting the sense of it. You want to do it where it's important. It's not a religious, it's not a religion. Just think about it, make decisions. It's part of what you need to decide. And the environment, the same. You need to go through staging, go. You don't need, don't. Take ownership on your decisions. If you go to production without staging and you fail, learn from it. So this is like lots of questions, and what I can is provide guidance, saying that we're not like do rendering, we're not gonna invest a lot in rendering automation test because it's very time consuming, and we did try for a few months, for a year even, to run automated tests through rendering, but it didn't pay. It wasn't worth it. So if the first step we said is like learning to walk, take ownership on quality, the next step is to own the journey. And what is the journey? You need really to understand where you're going. So first is you need to understand the feature very well. As a programmer, you need to understand. You need to be part of the backlog management because it's a team effort. Understanding why, influencing why, influencing about maybe new features. It's not like getting someone to think of it and then doing it. It's not an execution. It's part of a team effort, right? And then you own the feature live in production, which is a lot of things to do. A lot of things to look at. Live in production means monitoring it, monitoring very heavily. Depends on the feature. But you look at it, you see lots of graphs that the programmer prepares for itself to monitor it. He knows what he wrote, he knows exactly the KPIs that he wants to track, the internal KPIs, the logs, he knows everything. You know, this is critical, this is not. I want to look at them. He sets the alerts on production. Sets everything in order to be sure that once he deploys it, if something happens, he knows like fast and can roll back fast. So you own it live in production. This is like a very basic ownership that you need to have. And then you own the business in production. You really need to know what's happening to the businesses. The result that you expected. It's not just the product manager results, it's the team results. You need to track this too. You need to understand it. You need to follow up on this. Not just like a few days, as a team. As a team you track, you own it. It's not a product manager job, it's not the QA job. Or making sure production is okay. No, it's yours. And sometimes it's a heavy burden, and it's a heavy burden, especially at the beginning when you push it. It's a heavy burden because it's okay. You write the code, but then you need to do lots of stuff in order to make sure it's running. So why? So programmers sometimes face. We need to look at more and more things, and it's very challenging for them. But once they get to it, once the habit grows and it becomes easier, they know that no one else can do it for them. And then we came up with MVR and MVA. What is MVR and MVA? As much as you have MVP, minimum viable product, for every release, you have minimum viable release, minimum viable architecture, right? So what do you do? What do you decide? How do you work on it? How do you deliver it? You need to decide how do you roll it out. You get the rollout program of the feature. You decide how you roll it out in order to reduce risks, yeah? If you do it like in a dirty code writing or like a very stable and scalable manner, you need to decide on the first MVP. And it's all a decision not based because you want to sandbag yourself or you want to protect yourself from being having no bugs. No, because you want the feature to work. So this is like a full load of ownership that the team gets on itself, and it cannot be done if you have another guy in the loop that needs to be told what has been done in such and such details, what you need to test, how you need to do it, how do I know if it's working, what is affected. Because when a programmer writes the code, he needs to think about this too. About all these scenarios you need to think about. And these are like lots of tools, of course. It's a whole load of tools to make you work, right? To understand, and you make the balance. You set the balance. And the next step, because it's like a real process, and it's not like as in the other presentation we had. It's not like a step function and that's it. It's a real process, and then you take the ownership as much as we had with the Aviram, that we had ownership on the microservice, right? So this is where we own. We start to own stuff. So we define tech and product ownership for every team. Every team owns a certain product and a technical subsystem or service. And it's not like a gatekeeper, it's an enabler. You don't, anyone can touch your code, but you must be able to be sure that the code is okay, and either you approve it or you're okay with it. And you're managing your tech debt, like in the process. You know what's important. If things are very important, you need to raise flags. I mean, it's not that someone else you will manage your tech debt. If production fails, you need to take the answers for it. Okay? And this is an excerpt from a retrospect from a very big project that we had. And one of the lessons learned was, because back then it was a big project, and we still had the QAs with us, and they were involved in the project in okay, let's put up a test plan and make sure that you cover up everything. But the lesson learned here is that it did not bring value, because by then the system is so big, changes are so big, so wild, the team is so big doing stuff, and everyone needs to contribute to its own. Everyone needs to, and as a team together, they need to contribute to each other in testing it. And no QA can really grasp the depth and the width of getting the right test into the table, more than the developer that really developed it. Okay? Okay, so this is our current quality pyramid. It's not a pyramid, it's a cup size, as you see. At the bottom, we have the manual local testing that every dev is doing, which is really doing all the stuff that he feels you need to test before you move forward. He's writing unit tests if he feels he needs to. He's running them. He's doing manual P-like testing. P-like is like production, but only for us. That's the part of the production system that only Fiverr developers see. So you run it in a small section of production, making sure it's okay. And then you also have a rollout strategy. Do you do an A/B testing? Do you do a rollout per users? Do you do a rollout per percentage of users, percentage of traffic, guests, whatever? You decide how do you want to manage the risks. And then heavy monitoring in production, heavy monitoring. And in each step, in these the last two steps, rollout and monitoring, you have a quick turnaround in case you need it. So most of the time you don't need it, but if you need it, very quickly you identify it, you roll back, move forward. Fix it, move forward. And like the biggest pillar is the judgment call. No strict procedure is in this place. The team decides based on the risks, based on the ROI, based on the opportunity, whatever, based on the code that has been changed, what is their strategy? Okay. And this is for the last slide for you. I mean, it's like, as you said, is it good for me or not? Depends. Depends, because if you set the goal, then it's more of the how and what suits me than if it is at all, right? If you're saying, you know, it cannot work, then it will not, definitely. So it's a key to think that if you understand the value, if you believe in autonomy, if you believe in the self-development of a programmer, if you believe in ownership, if you believe that it's a great tool, and I must say, not every programmer can do it, definitely. But most do, even though they're surprised at it that they can eventually, but most do. So it all depends on you eventually. That's it. Q&A? Thanks. Yeah. So that's, yeah, we also have feature flags, we also have rollback, but we also have rollout, like that you can control how many users will see it and you can lower it down to 0. And so it depends on the mechanism you use. We don't always use rollout, we don't always use rollback, we don't always use A/B testing. And again, you're right, you're asking if it's like, the faster you discover it, easier it is to roll back. If you discover it like a day after, then it's problematic, of course. Yeah, because like deploys all over.